Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to the Attic. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from Massey Capone. Let's listen to what Massey has to say.
Hi Lloyd, I've been really enjoying your long-form essay videos, and you might have seen me comment under the name Massey Capone. I don't need to be anonymous, and you're welcome to broadcast my recording. So my brother has been an elder for a few years, and almost a year ago we started with the Enjoy Life Forever online course. I decided to stop after chapter 9. Towards the end, I was watching videos from you and a few other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, gaining some insight, especially with those videos you made about how their translation has been doctored to fit their doctrine. Our studies were somewhat enjoyable, and truth be told, I mostly did it to keep us in contact because we just don't have much to talk about. We weren't that close growing up, and him joining Jehovah's Witnesses certainly did not help. No one else in our family has ever considered joining. We were casually raised Catholic, but the whole immediate family kind of drifted from all that, thankfully. And I kind of knew at age 17 to 18 that I would never be a part of any type of religion after just reading some of the Bible. Just a little Old Testament is enough for me to be like, nope, this is clearly man-made and barbaric. Anyway, during studies, I always did my best to be as charitable as I could and keep all disagreements to civil discussions. I was also under the impression that this was that this was a Bible study and that I was going to be learning his beliefs. But I eventually realized we're not on the same page. He's talking to me about developing a relationship with Jehovah. And I would directly ask if he was hoping I would join, but no, it's not about that. It's just my relationship with Jehovah. But I was always at least 2 steps ahead of him. I read far into the studies to figure out that it's all clearly indoctrination material. And having a relationship with Jehovah clearly means being one of them. You cannot separate the two. I don't know why they don't just be straight up and at least be like, yeah, we'd be honored if people would consider joining us. Anyway, I was always a bit uncomfortable in the studies because I always wanted to argue just about everything. But I'm trying so hard to just be accepting and nice. And their little questions in their studies were so annoying because it's always just to tell them what they want to hear. And I knew lesson 10 was all about going to the meetings, which I made clear I won't consider something like that unless they treat women as equals. And we had an argument about blood transfusions. I simply explained my view and listened to him, but he takes it as me lashing out. And me having my own stance on morality is the epitome of arrogance, he said. He strongly believes apostate material ruin our studies, and perhaps some content helped me come to a decision, but I knew deep down it was never going to go. Sorry, my cat's being annoying. I knew deep down it was never going to go where he wanted. I tried to explain that it's actually what they teach that is the main reason for me to stop the studies. And I guess my view on disfellowshipping is too ignorant because I don't have direct experience with it, so I guess I can't understand it better than him. Except their own study material says to shun people who simply leave the organization. In lesson 58 of the second paragraph, it very clearly says to not associate with people who disassociate. Not just talking about people who committed serious sins, which they're always vague about anyway. And I found out he felt like it was getting difficult having discussions about something he would consider to be apostate. And he needs a boundary with that. So I think it's best we have no more spiritual conversations because I'm just walking on eggshells at this point. Me and him work things out, but I'm sure that unless he comes to his senses, we'll just never be very close. I had a good little therapy session with my stepdad that I'm very close with, who let me know that I'm not arrogant because I can figure out morality without a God telling me what's right and wrong, and that I respected my brother for years, letting him share his beliefs with me, and it's time for him to show some respect. So all of this is really to warn people not to ever start studying with them casually. Only do it if you're seriously interested in joining. I tried to get him to study the Bible with me because I'm trying to finish reading the New Testament, and sometimes he gives good insight into confusing scriptures, but he's not interested. I can confirm they really don't care to actually study the Bible. I'll wrap it up here. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Massey. That was a very enlightening voicemail. Obviously, there isn't really a question there. It's just you sharing your experience, and it was a very frustrating experience with your newly converted brother, or fairly newly converted brother, who is now an elder. And I think it's very informative and helpful for my viewers to see these testimonies and understand what the Bible study model actually represents. They missell it, don't they? Again, why can't they be upfront, which is the point that you make? And it's a very good point. It's a point that I make routinely on this channel. If it's not a cult, and if it's all above board, and if there's nothing in this set of beliefs or this ideology for Jehovah's Witnesses to be ashamed of, why can't they just put all of their cards on the table to begin with? Why do they need to use any element of deception or evasion? And you outright asked your brother, look, are you looking to recruit me into the religion? And he said no. He said, I'm just trying to help you develop your relationship with Jehovah. And then you very intelligently went a few steps ahead in the book, in the Enjoy Life Forever book, and realized that a relationship with Jehovah is inseparable from becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So he lied to you. He lied. Why do you need to lie? Why do you need to cover up the truth in lies in order to make it more palatable? Doesn't that say it all? I found it interesting that just through having this dialogue in which you were saying things like, well, I'm only going to come to a Kingdom Hall meeting when you treat women properly and give them an opportunity to speak, which was brilliant, by the way. Very interesting that you described him lashing out to that sort of thing. So any sort of honest pushback, any genuine concerns that you express in a Bible study where you're giving your authentic opinion, you're saying, look, here's a problem I have. It seems irreconcilable with what you're telling me. How do we move past this? And the way basically it's your fault for, quote, lashing out. And I also found it very funny when you mentioned that your brother told you that having your own stance on morality is, how did you put it, the height of arrogance. That's really interesting, because what he's doing there is he's using the argument from authority, or he's suggesting that because God is a supreme moral authority, because he created us, essentially, he gets to dictate to us what our morals are. But then you have to ask the question, well, where does free will come into things? I thought the whole point was that we use our free will to submit to God's authority. And if we're using our free will, and if we're using the intelligence, the brain power, the conscientious beliefs that make us who we are to worship God, then of course the morality needs to make sense. If it's just a case of accepting what an authority figure says as correct, irregardless of how we feel, that leads you down all sorts of dark paths, doesn't it? You can justify almost any atrocity, any barbarity, if you just say, well, you know what, it's not up to me. I just have to do as I'm told. It seems God's very, very interested in us not only following him, but agreeing with him. And that alone indicates that our stance, our individual stance on morality does matter, because God wants us to give him our endorsement. Our endorsement apparently means something to him. He wants his creation to turn around and recognize his sovereignty. How does that mean anything if his creation doesn't get a say in things and doesn't get to have their own subjective stance on what is or isn't moral? So well done for raising all of these issues. Perhaps you might have sowed some seeds with your brother, but I wouldn't be raising your hopes. I think it's very likely now that, given the fact that your brother is an elder and has clearly been very deeply indoctrinated to the point of chastising you for asking questions, it seems like things aren't looking good in terms of him ever waking up. But I must applaud you for hearing him out, making it through 9 lessons. Not that I would advise people to study with Jehovah's Witnesses, but you heard him out and you gave him an opportunity to explain his beliefs, and you weren't afraid to share your honest concerns and objections. And who knows, maybe you might have sown a seed there. Who knows? Time will tell. But it's good that you've been able to keep things civil, and it's good that you're keeping the lines of communication open. And it's very mature of you to say, well, look, we can have a relationship. Let's just keep religion off the table. It's good to have that line of communication so that if ever he is in a position where he feels uncertain about his beliefs and he feels as though these doubts are just overwhelming him, he has someone that he can reach out to, because you're keeping the lines of communication open. So well done, and thank you very much for leaving that message, which again is very informative regarding the Jehovah's Witness Bible study process. That's all we have time for today. Don't forget that if you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on this channel. But that's it. Thank you for watching.